We're here today with Richard Poland of the Poland Angus Ranch, in Isabel, Kansas, here in Barber County. And Richard's a longtime cattle producer and a longtime educator here in Barber County, and he's got a bull sale coming up the first Wednesday of March, and we thought we'd have a little visit with him. Richard, glad that you can join us. If you could kind of give us a little overview or a little history of how Poland Angus Ranch came about.
Okay, Justin, I'm glad to be here today. Well, I got started teaching ag in Medicine Lodge in 1974, and I had an opportunity to move out to one of our family farms in '76 and bought a few commercial cows from my dad, or calves to feed out, and some of those heifers were pregnant. And so, lo and behold, I'm in the cattle business. So I thought, if I'm going to be in the cattle business, I just as well maybe try to raise a premium product. And so we started thinking about what breed of cattle would we like to have. And my dad's herd was all commercial cows, crossed up Herefords and Charolais, and you name it, he had it. And so I got to looking around, and virtually everybody in Barber County at that time had Hereford cattle. I said, well, we've got a dozen Hereford breeders in the county already. You don't need to be in Hereford business. And I thought, well, we'd considered Simmental for a little bit, and finally decided that maybe Angus would be the breed to go to. So I AI'd to some Angus bulls for a few years, and we finally bought our first Angus females in 1981. And so from those first two females, one of them, it was kind of a auspicious start because one of them was infertile. So the next spring we went out and bought 10 females at the Rusk Ranch, and that's been the base of our herd for the last 40 years. So we're nearing 40 years in the Angus business.
Nice. So through the years, when did you make the transition to the focus you have now? Is your sales called Carcass Plus?
Yes.
Was that always the emphasis, or was there a transition to when you wanted to move to that direction?
Well, I think early on I was wanting to have some calves for the kids to show, and so initially we bred some show bulls, and I found out early on that I wasn't particularly interested in hauling around to big shows and that sort of activity, and we weren't going to be able to, with what I didn't know was going to limit us to what we could do. And so we didn't mess with the show genetics very long. We thought we'd just try to produce good Angus cattle that were productive and would grow and gain. And then the Carcass thing got started, and we bred really hard for a number of years on Carcass genetics, increasing the marbling and ribeye, especially the marbling, and didn't pay too much attention to some of the other traits. And very quickly, within a few years, we had a bunch of cows that were gutless, and they had some muscle to them, and they had really good marbling scores. But when you went to the pasture to look at cows, it just about made you sick. They were narrow-gutted, flat-ribbed, and hard-doing kind of cows that just you didn't like to go look at. Yep. And so we had we were breeding to some of the really good Carcass bulls at the time, and had as good a Carcass numbers as anybody in the country. And but I didn't like the kind of cattle we were producing. So 15 years ago or so, I decided that I'm going to moderate what I was doing on Carcass and try to produce some cattle that were shaped the way I like them to be shaped, and that still had performance, still had the Carcass, but I guess this is where the Carcass Plus came in. The Carcass was there, and we just wanted to add the look, the productive look, the muscle, and the type and style that of cattle that I like to look at.
You bet. Well, you're around these parts. It's well known that you were an ag education instructor for many years, had some really good livestock judging teams. In your opinion, what is it that you're looking for in that cow, and what is it that you're looking for in that bull for that perfect mating?
I guess my ideal would be a cow that's moderate framed, that's really deep ribbed and deep in her flank, and is bold sprung and can go out and cover a lot of acres. She's structurally sound so that she can cover that area and do what she's supposed to do on native grass, which is what most of our commercial producers are running their cows on.
Yeah.
You know, with a limited amount of supplemental grain and only protein supplement for the most part through the winter. And look for cows that will produce and be productive and profitable, and that's kind of a situation.
Looking back through the years, is there a bull or maybe a couple bulls that you feel really put you in the right direction, or that stand out more to you than anything else? And it could be some that you raised or some that you used.
Well, I think we were real fortunate when we got started that we bought a bunch of bred heifers that were the right kind of heifers. They weren't the kind of heifers that the show ring was looking for at that time, but because they had some body to them and weren't the big framey leggy things that we went through that phase, unfortunately. But I think we learned something from that. And those heifers were all pregnant to a bull named Target, which had a lot of performance. And then when we AI'd the first few years, we used QAS Traveler, which is a very common, well-known name out there in the Angus business. And I think that bull set us up with a bunch of females that were, continued to be moderately framed and had beautiful udders and tit quality. So udders and tits have been kind of a priority for me too, to keep udders that are high quality so you don't have to mess with a cow. If I wanted to be in the dairy business, I'd go buy a Holstein cow if I wanted to mess with udders all the time. And that's not what I'm about. So I don't think very many cattle producers are interested in doing that either. So he got us set up in a really positive way, and we've just been able to maintain that.
You bet. Now, how many years is it that you've been doing the bull sale?
Oh, we've had bull sales since early '80s, I guess. We had a bull sale with Rusk Ranch for a few years, and when they sold out, then we got hooked in with Lonker Herefords and Red Angus, and sold with them for several years. And then I think in 2005, I think was our first bull sale at our home location.
Okay. When we're looking over the bulls that you're going to have to offer this year, is there any of them that really stand out to you?
Yeah, there's really good bulls in every sire group. There's a top end in every sire group. And is there a favorite one? I don't know that there's a favorite bull out there. There's several bulls that have growth and performance and carcass, really good carcass numbers to go with it. We have some that are really good in growth, some that'll add a little bit of frame, some that'll take some frame off. So, you know, it just depends on what the commercial producer's looking for. I think we've got a bull in there that will fit virtually everybody's needs, and do it in a good structurally sound package that they'll be proud to own.
I know there's a lot of producers that are yearly purchasers, come back to your sale
Right.
year after year, and I think that's a testament of what you're doing. You're doing something right to keep them coming back. What is it, in your opinion, that gets those people coming back year after year? Is it?
I think it's probably all of the above, and I think number one, we have good cattle. Number two, we service our customers. If there's a problem with the bull, we're more than happy to take care of the problem, and because we want them to be happy with their purchase and come back year after year. We can't, you know, if we can't sell a bull, we can't stay in business. So I think, you know, and honesty and integrity, I think, is an important part of it. You know, if somebody asks me a question, I'll answer the question. You know, as honestly as I'll tell them everything I know about those animals, and so that they're as well informed, they know as much about that animal by sale day, or the animal that they picked out to purchase, as I do.
I know when it comes sale time, it's all hands on deck. You're a very family-oriented man. I know how important your family is. Can you talk about the role that they play with Poland Angus Ranch, even though I know some of them have moved away from Barber County, but I know they're there at the sales?
All three of my kids are involved in the cattle operation. They all have cattle in their own names, and that's where the RHCC prefix comes from. The Rolling Hills Cattle Company is Heather and Paul, and well, you know, the day-to-day operation falls on my shoulders, and when we have big events like our judging contest and the bull sale, they're there ready to help in any capacity that they can. Daughter Erin is working on the catalog even as we speak today, and so you know, everybody does a part, and it wouldn't happen without their support and without them coming to help on those, especially around those special occasions.
You mentioned the livestock judging contest, and that's something that we missed in 2020,
Yep.
Unfortunately. But would you mind visiting a little bit about how that got started and what that's meant for you, as well as people around here?
When I was teaching ag, we went around to a lot of livestock judging contests, and several of those were hosted by purebred breeders. Slick All Herefords over around Haven, and Alfalfa Lawn Farms at Larned were a couple of them that we went to. The Barber County Cattlemen's Hereford breeders had a judging contest for a number of years. And when those different breeders went out of, you know, when they quit having their contests, there was less contests to go to. And I thought, well, you know, somebody ought to put on a contest, you know, just let's have a contest. So who'd been to more judging contests than me? You know, there's probably a few out there that had been to more, and I don't know that there's anybody much more opinionated than I am about how one ought to be run. So I decided, well, just step up and have a contest. And so we had our first 2 or 3 contests were on Saturdays, and we had 50 kids at those first few contests, and thought, boy, it'd sure be nice to do all this work to have a lot more people there. So we decided to go to a weekday contest after that. And so we've topped out, I think a few years ago, we had 396 contestants at the contest, and it takes about 40 helpers the day of the contest to get that thing run off. And we've had rounding up 40 people to put on a contest one day is a pretty big undertaking. And so we've, the first people I called was the parents of some of my former judging contest kids, judging team members, and they were glad to come and help, and neighbors and people we went to church with, and Anita is in charge of feeding that whole group, and so she calls on on her friends and neighbors and to get all that done. So it's we couldn't do it without a lot of people's input and help on that day. And in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, I guess, Robin and Paula here at the Extension Office have been real instrumental in getting our registration and tabulation computerized, and I don't have to mess with that.
Yep.
And that's been great. And then the last few years, I've invited some of my former judges to come back and be officials for the contest. I put the officials on the cattle for probably 23 or 4 or 5 years, I guess 24 years, because at the 25th contest I had Clint Russ come back and put the officials on them. And so it's gratifying to have people like that will come back and help you out.
You bet. You've got quite a list of alumni that were students of yours or former judges of yours that have done fantastic things, not only here in Barber County, but literally across the country and the world. Can you reflect on that, or?
Well, I think a lot of those kids are active in their own communities, and that's really gratifying. And to see them go out and be leaders in their communities. Some of them have been leaders in the state, and some of them even nationally and internationally even have been highly thought of. And, Dr. Clint Rusk at Oklahoma State, was one of the in his younger years was as good as they got. Judged probably every national show there was to judge. And following up that, Shane Bedwell, a few years now, is in that position. He's with the American Hereford Association and judging a lot of shows. So, those two in particular stand out, but more importantly, just all those former students that are active in the livestock business or using their leadership abilities that they gained to be vital parts of their communities, wherever they are, here or throughout the state or throughout the country. And it's gratifying to hear from those kids and and see what they're doing and what they've become.
Yeah, that was when I first started here at the extension office. You loaded me up in the pickup my first day and drove me around, and I'll never forget just about every stop we made, whether it was at a bank or at a producer's house or wherever. It seemed like everybody that we stopped at was a former student of yours. And it spoke volumes to me that you'd had that kind of impact on them. You know, we talk about the livestock judging, and I get it does my heart good that I see Shane Bedwell judging the heifer show at the Oklahoma Youth Expo, that they were up against a wall with COVID moving in.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled that thing off in amazing time before they shut Oklahoma City down, the town down, and everybody had to move out. But what a lot of people don't know is, that's a former student of yours that's judging one of the largest cattle shows in the country that weekend. But just a weekend before that or two, you're working with a group of 9, 10, 11-year-old kids from throughout this county, evaluating livestock and taking reasons. And it just, I can't tell you how thankful I am that you're in Barber County and still involved. It'd be very easy for you to say, no, I've had my time, but you continue to volunteer every year and bring up a new set of kids. And, I know 2020 was a little different year. You got one contest in and won it. But I love the fact that it doesn't matter what age or not, you step up to the plate every year with a set of kids. And I took a picture when you was at our place looking at goats, of all things, and taking reasons from kids, and I sent that to some people and said, I don't know if these kids will understand the importance of this, that here's a guy that's taken reasons from some of the best in the country, and they have him right here on a Saturday afternoon in the barn sitting on a bale of hay taking reasons from him. And I think it's a big deal for me. I hope it's a big deal for you. But what do we have to look forward to? Is there anything different going into this year's sale lineup versus the previous years that people can be looking forward to?
Well, I don't know that there's anything much different. We've had our sale the last 5 or 6 years on DV auction, and I assume we sell a few bulls every year on the DV auction, and I think this year we may see more activity in that, and certainly encourage anybody that's looking for a good Angus bull that doesn't want to come and be around people with the COVID thing going on, that they're certainly welcome to bid and buy on DV auction and come by the farm beforehand if they want to look at the bulls and walk through them and see what the offering is on the hoof. And we'll have we've got videos taken of all the bulls, and that should be up for viewing here a couple of weeks before the sale.
And that'll be on DV auction?
That'll be on DV auction. We'll also have it on our website.
Okay. Well, Richard, I appreciate the time. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to go over?
Well, I understand that I'm going to get a new farmhand here in another couple of months. My wife's retiring from the Barber County Public Health Department, and so I'm planning on putting her to work.
Well, you can expand the herd then.
Yeah,
we got additional helpers.
Yeah, we got more help. We'll be able to handle more cows, and I think it's going to be a great addition having her around. 24/7, 365 now.
We may have to do another interview here. I don't know, 5 or 6 months. Make sure that's still going good.
That's right. Get Anita in here, and you know, she's done such a good job of taking care of me for the last 49 years, part-time. I don't know how good I'll be when I get her care full-time.
Well, I think that probably about covers it. Oh, well, thanks again for taking the time to visit with us, and don't forget that the annual Poland Angus Ranch sale, the Carcass Plus sale, will be the first Wednesday of March at the ranch near Isabel, Kansas. It's an easy location to get in and out of, and be sure to contact Richard if you got any questions or you want to view any bulls going into it.